We've spent the 21st century lurching from one global shock to the next. The September 11th attacks, the 2008 financial meltdown, and the COVID-19 pandemic. And every time the world fractures, the exact same phrases start creeping into our news feeds and political speeches. We hear that things fall apart, that the center cannot hold, that mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The journalist Fintan O'Toole coined a rule for this phenomenon. He calls it the Yeats test, which proposes a simple metric. The more frequently politicians and pundits quote these specific lines, the worse the actual state of the world is. These viral phrases come from a single 164-word poem written by the Irish poet W.B. Yeats called The Second Coming. It has left a massive footprint across pop culture, appearing everywhere from the season finale of The Sopranos to blockbuster films. This esoteric piece of Irish literature, written over a century ago, has become modern civilization's ultimate disaster movie in verse form. The poem opens with a falcon flying in a widening spiral, moving so far outward that it loses the ability to hear the falconer calling it back. This broken tether represents a societal system losing its guiding authority. It describes the moment control slips away and anarchy takes over. To understand why we reach for this poem when the present feels like it is fracturing, we have to trace that spiral backward to its absolute center, the year it was written. Yeats designed The Second Coming in 1919 as an architectural roadmap for societal collapse. In January 1919, Yeats was surrounded by overlapping traumas. The First World War had just left a graveyard across Europe, and the chaos of the Russian Revolution was still unfolding. Local tensions had also boiled over into the Irish War of Independence. In a single month, the Revolutionary Parliament met in Dublin, while the IRA launched lethal attacks. But the most immediate threat was inside his home. His pregnant wife, Georgie, was battling the Spanish flu. During that pandemic, mortality rates for pregnant women reached up to 70% in some areas. For Yeats, the sense of an ending was intensely personal. Yeats wrote these lines as an emergency psychological response to a world where every system seemed to be failing at once. To find order in this chaos, Yeats and his wife engaged in automatic writing. They sought to channel a collective unconscious that stored all of humanity's symbols and memories. Yeats envisioned time as a series of 2,000-year interlocking cones, or gyres, where one widens as the opposite narrows. By 1919, the cycle of Christianity had reached its maximum expansion, collapsing to trigger the violent expansion of a new dark cone. This is the subversion of the poem's title. The second coming, he describes, is the birth of a blank-eyed, rough beast with a lion body and the head of a man, rising from the desert to replace the old order. He used this dark occult geometry to predict that the coming century would be a brutal, terrifying reset. Early drafts of the poem were actually highly specific. Yeats initially included dated political references, like a line explicitly mentioning the German military advancing into Russia. But he edited these terrestrial specifics out, replacing them with mythic imagery of indignant desert birds and blood-dimmed tides. The scholar David Dwan calls this strategy productive vagueness. By removing the names and dates of his own time, Yeats created a template that can perfectly map onto any future crisis. This editorial shift transformed a reactionary political rant into a universal architecture for human dread. We see the success of that design in the poem's cultural footprint. Subsequent generations have used its vocabulary to define their own eras of flux, such as Chinua Achebe, who titled his landmark novel on the complexities of independence, Things Fall Apart. The poem provides no solutions. Instead, it offers a vocabulary to confront the terrifying fragility of human progress. That fragility connects us right back to the turning gyre. History is not a straight line of improvement. It is an endless loop of building up, reaching a breaking point, and falling apart. This is the ultimate irony of the poem. Society is trapped inside the widening gyre. Things will fall apart over and over again, Yet the rough beast never quite reaches